When the squad list is announced, one name immediately catches your eye. A name whose absence feels even heavier than its presence. You read it again, thinking perhaps the news is wrong. You lean closer to the screen. Then once more. But the list remains unchanged. Football never waits for you. In this small world of 26 players, space feels too cramped for some. Injury, form, a manager's single-line decision, or sometimes simply bad luck. All of these close the same door, the door to the World Cup. In 2026, that door slams shut in the faces of some of the world's brightest talents. Some were legends, others were on the verge of becoming legends. Their shared fate, however, was this tournament isn't waiting for them. Here are those 10 names. 10. Paulo Dybala. Every child who grows up in Buenos Aires starts out with a dream of playing football. That's how it began for Paulo Dybala too. But in 2022, under the lights of Lusail Stadium, that dream was truly immense. The final. France. The penalty spot. And Dybala stepped up to face the ball at that very spot, with the whole world watching. Argentine fans can still hear the sound of that strike echoing within them. But don't think football loves you just because it made you a legend for one night. When Lionel Scaloni announced his 55-man extended shortlist, the 32-year-old Dybala's name was not on it. Not on the list, not even in the discussion. He'd last worn the Argentina shirt in late 2024. In the season behind him, he'd scored just 3 goals across all competitions. Scaloni summed up his decision in a single sentence: others deserve to be there more. It was the harshest thing one could say to someone who'd won a World Cup. Had that sentence been said to Dybala as he waited his turn to take a penalty that night, he might not have believed it. But that's the way football is. Glorious moments are no guarantee of future success. And Dybala will be watching the 2026 World Cup on television. 9. Randal Kolo Muanı. The player France brought on in the final minutes of the 2022 Qatar final was not a household name. But that night, with a run that left millions on the edge of their seats and a single strike, Kolo Muanı etched his name into the history books. Furthermore, in the final minutes of the 2022 World Cup final, with the goal almost empty, Kolo Muani's shot was denied by Emiliano Martinez's superb save with his foot. And France missed out on the title. For years on, by 2026, that one night had not been enough. His transfers at Tottenham took their toll. Whilst the team he played for struggled with the fear of relegation, Kolo Muanı faded from view not on the training ground, but in the statistics. In the 30 matches he played, he scored just 1 goal and took 20 shots, only 4 of which were on target. Deschamps dropped him from the squad, replacing him with Crystal Palace striker Matt Etter. It seems one final night isn't enough. When announcing his squad for what could be his farewell tournament, Deschamps said, "These moments are the final ones for me too." Both the manager and the player. Both will be watching that grand stage from the stands this time. 8. Eduardo Camavinga. When the established figures of French football first watched him, they all said the same thing: this lad is our future. He came of age at Real Madrid in the shadow of Modric and Kroos, and was expected to take center stage following their departure. The momentum that swung in France's favor in those moments when he stepped onto the pitch in the 2022 final was the very embodiment, in the language of football, of the promise made to him. But the 2025-26 season took that promise back. Starting in the first 11 just 23 times, in a single season, whilst wearing the Real Madrid shirt. A loss of rhythm. Uncertainty. The sadness of a star that faded before it had even risen. Deschamps turned to Rubio and Conte instead of Camavinga. He is still only 23. Being left out of the squad at a time when his career should be at its peak can sometimes take its toll. Do you think this was a warning? Or was it a silent harbinger of the end of his career? 7. Estevao. Imagine this, one of the world's most talked about young players, just before the tournament that would take him to the World Cup, walks off the pitch in tears. But this time, those tears are not of joy. In April, during a match against Manchester United, Estevao's collapse to the ground following a hamstring spasm brought everything to a sudden standstill. Initial reports suggested a 2-week layoff, however, the reality proved far harsher. He was dropped from Brazil's preliminary squad. As he left the pitch, he realized his dreams were slipping away. To fill this void, Carlo Ancelotti brought 34-year-old Neymar into the squad. One was nearing the twilight of his career, the other was just beginning his, yet now they find themselves at the same crossroads. This is how the passing of a generation unfolds. The 19-year-old young legend exits the stage in tears. The aging legend seeks a way to step before the curtain one last time. And one cannot help but ask, is this real? Yes, it is real. 6. Savinho. Go back 2 years. When it came to Brazil's left wing, there was only one name: Savinho. His pace, his dribbling, his ability to catch opponents off guard. The debate wasn't about whether he'd make the squad, but whether he'd start in the first 11. But football can take away the career it has given you before it has even begun, sometimes very quickly. Following his transfer to Manchester City, Omar Marmoush, Ryan Cherki and Antoine Semenyo were added to the wing positions. Jeremy Doku also put his inconsistencies behind him and found his form. Savinho found himself waiting to take to the pitch during periods of heavy rotation. Ancelotti left him out of the squad. Instead, he opted for Anthony from Real Betis and Ryan from Bournemouth. Had this decision been announced 2 years ago, no one would have believed it. He is 22 years old. He had his whole career ahead of him. Now he has to rebuild it from scratch. The big stage sometimes dims even the brightest lights. 5. Alvaro Carreras. In theory, every door was open. As Real Madrid's left-back, the path to the young and talented Spain national team seemed to have been paved just for him. But the season did not go well. His performances failed to convince the selectors. De La Fuente concluded that there was someone better in Carreras's position. Carreras's story may seem ordinary at this point, but the real shock lay elsewhere. Not a single Real Madrid player featured in Spain's squad for the 2026 World Cup. This had never happened at any point in history. For one of the world's greatest clubs to send 0 players to the national team. Carreras became part of that history. Unfortunately, he made his mark on history, but in a chapter where no one would have wanted to be remembered. 4. Alejandro Balde. Barcelona's left-back during their title-winning season. A young, dynamic player who entered the tournament as part of the La Liga champions. The World Cup should have been a natural stepping stone for his career. But De La Fuente saw things differently. Multiple hamstring injuries made it impossible for him to find his rhythm. His dip in form at club level also affected his place in the national team. When it came to their position, names such as Cucurella, Grimaldo and Sergio Gomez came to the fore. A comment made by a journalist in the Spanish media still lingers: Balde is not favored by De La Fuente. This encompassed not just one season, but every match he was not called up for and every decision that went unannounced. Was it a technical decision, or a personal preference? This question will remain etched on the face of Balde, not the Balde playing on the pitch throughout the World Cup, but the Balde watching from the stands. Balde, for his part, will seek the answer from home. 3. Roony Bardghji. Sometimes a single dinner can change a life. Sometimes just one dinner can overshadow years of hard work, the burden carried since the age of 19, and all that potential, in a single night. When Sweden secured their World Cup place by eliminating Poland, the celebrations began. Bardghji kept his distance during those events. He voiced his dissatisfaction. According to information from internal sources, he made a negative impression on the coaching staff during the meal. Add to this the picture emerging from the pitch, and the picture was complete. Throughout the season, whilst waiting in the wings behind Lamine Yamal at Barcelona, he had not been given sufficient playing time. No rhythm, a poor impression. When manager Potter announced his decision, he said, "I've selected a group that can stand strong together. Talent alone is sometimes not enough. Team spirit, harmony, discipline. And sometimes, yes, a single behavior at a dinner." Afterwards, no one asked Bardghji what he thought. 2. Dejan Kulusevski. There is no tactical decision here. Nor is it a matter of discipline. There is simply the desperate, silent struggle of a footballer trying to make it onto the big stage. Kulusevski's knee injury has kept him sidelined since May 2025. He underwent surgery. Repeated setbacks have hampered his recovery. Sweden's Dr. Jonas Werner has stated that the situation has become difficult to treat. He played his last match against Crystal Palace, but he didn't know it would be his final match. Before his injury, he was one of Sweden's most technically gifted players. A winger and attacking midfielder. Someone who provided the manager with tactical versatility and added flexibility to the system. "I'm confident in myself, I'll be there," he had said. But it wasn't to be. Due to his injury, Kulusevski will be watching the World Cup not from the operating theatre, but from a corner of his home, and this will break his heart. What do you think Kulusevski was feeling whilst trying to recover? What was he doing whilst his teammates were preparing for the tournament? This is one of football's harshest realities. Sometimes, the one who deserves it most ends up the furthest away. 1. Dani Carvajal. And now we come to the top of the list. Dani Carvajal. Real Madrid's legendary right-back. 52 caps for Spain. Euro 2024 champion. He was there for every major trophy, on every big night, Champions League nights, the Euro final, the World Cup pitches, and historians count him amongst the greatest of his era. The 2025-26 season proved challenging for both Carvajal and Real Madrid. Just 23 matches, fitness issues, limited playing time. De La Fuente observed this situation and did not even include Carvajal's name on the 55-man preliminary shortlist. A few weeks ago, De La Fuente made a statement, "The captain is ours." Those words were still in the air when the squad list was released. And Carvajal's name was not on it. Moreover, this was the first time in history that a tournament featured a Spain squad without a single Real Madrid player. Carvajal was not just left out of the squad, he was left out of an era. The right-back position was taken over by Pedro Porro and Marcos Llorente. There are many footballers who know when their final match is, but Carvajal did not know that this was his final match. Perhaps this was not an ending unworthy of a legend. Perhaps, on the contrary, this was the most honorable ending for a legend. If there is someone to take his place, then his departure has meaning. But did it have to be so quiet? So sudden? Closing Carvajal didn't know if this was his final match. Perhaps that is the greatest pain of all, not losing, but not knowing whether it's over or not. Kulusevski will watch the tournament from his hospital bed, suffering and blaming himself. Estevao left the pitch choked with tears, his dreams fading away with him. Dybala lifted the trophy in 2022, by 2026, that trophy will be in different hands. Football sometimes closes a door, but even as it closes, a glimmer of light sometimes seeps through for some, yet this time, those left standing outside the door cannot see that light. These 10 names are currently standing before that closed door. Which of these 10 named stories do you feel the most sorry for? Don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy watching.